Hi, welcome to Mark Deeks Music. Welcome to those of you who are new to Mark Deeks Music. And welcome, of course, to those of you who have watched some of these free videos before. Today's video is a bit of is it a rant? I think rant is maybe too strong a word. I'm really passionate about this subject and I wanted to try and explain why. Lots of people, when they're trying to learn to play, particularly guitar and piano, which are very chord-based instruments or can be very chord-based instruments, and they're trying to learn to play songs, and they're looking at chord charts, or they're looking at sheet music, and they're reading the chord symbols across the top. People, when they're learning these new chords, quite often have different ways of trying to remember which chord is which, so they know which notes to play on the guitar or the keyboard, or perhaps you're just trying to understand music theory a little bit more. And there's one guaranteed way that I would really recommend that you don't do that. I think that it's a method that I know that a lot of people do, but it always really blows my mind, which is why I've got my blowing my mind emoji on the name of this video. I think it just overcomplicates things so much. And that method that people use, I'll tell you the way I would do it in a moment, but this way really, I think, overcomplicates it. And what they do is they look at the distance, or to use the musical term, an interval between one note and the next within a chord that they do know. So say they know how to play one particular major chord, and they look at the interval between the two notes, count how many tones or semitones that distance is, or that interval is, and then they look at the distance between the next two notes and the chord that they do know, and they go, right, so that's how we do a major chord. We've got this number of tones or semitones between this note and this note, and we've got this number of tones and semitones between this note and this note. That is how we construct a major chord. And then what they do is they say, oh, well, that's great. Now I can construct any major chord. I just have to pick whatever note I want a major chord on. So whereas before they might have had a C major chord, and now they want a G major chord, and they just apply those intervals to the note that they're now trying to build a chord on. I get it. It works, sort of, mathematically, a bit, at best. Don't get me wrong, you will end up playing the right notes. But there are now two fundamental problems. One, if you're going to remember every single chord type in that way, then you're now going to be having to remember a huge number of patterns of tones and semitones. And there are lots of different types of chords. And so that really feels like almost trying to remember binary to me. Effectively, you're just trying to remember lots of ones and zeros. So that's my first problem with it. Whilst it works sort of a bit, you are going to have a lot of very, very, very similar patterns of notes to remember. So here's my second problem. So my second problem is when you do get from one note to the next, you count your interval and you think, yeah, that's great. I've now gotten the right sound. I've got the right note. That I now know what I'm doing. You do. But you don't know what name to give that note. And if you know anything about music theory, you might have realized by now that every single pitch that we use has at least more than one name. It has more than one names. They have at least two. You could sometimes argue three for some of them. Well, they have. So you don't know which name to use when you get there. So you might have counted your interval from one note to the next, and you might have landed on, I don't know, an F sharp. But is it a G flat really in music theory in the context of that chord? Because sometimes that pitch, that sound, that note might be known as an F sharp in some chords, but it might be known as a G flat in other chords. That's the same note, it's the same sound, but it's got a different name depending on which musical language we're talking in. So, two reasons that I wouldn't construct chords using tones and semitones. One, you've got to count lots of different patterns of effectively ones and zeros, tones and semitones. And you won't really want to do that. I wouldn't want to do that for a lot of different chords. And there are lots and lots. That's my first problem. Second problem, when I do land on the right note, and you will be able to do that if you've remembered the patterns of tones and semitones, you won't know what name to give that note when you get there. Because every note in music has more than one name. So there's my first two problems. I could go on, but they're the two main problems. So how would I do it? How do I think you should learn chords? Well, more than I can teach you in this free video, but essentially key signatures. Key signatures are the key, without wanting to make a musical joke, because they start off a chain of information which ends up with you being able to construct any chord you like. A key signature, if you don't know what that is, there's a video that I put on yesterday, a little bit that explains a little about key signatures. But a key signature is like a stamp for a piece of music. It tells you what notes are contained in that piece of music. And so when I have the key signature, it tells me what notes I've got to play with. When I know what notes I've got to play with, now I can construct a scale, for example, that generates for me the scale. If I put the notes that I have available to me in that key in order from start to finish, like an alphabet, now I've got a scale. If I can construct a scale, then constructing chords really just mean combinations of notes. 2 notes, 3 notes, 4 notes, 5 notes, 6, 7. If you get past 7, I would just give it up and have a cup of tea. But usually 3 or 4 notes, most commonly. So when we start combining notes and we get chords, then if the key signature has dictated what notes we have to play with, now we know what notes we can construct chords out of. And there are lots of ways that you can do that automatically by just letting the key signature do the work for you. So, does learning key signatures at the beginning seem a bit more complicated? Yeah, it does. Many people will look at a list of key signatures and go, that looks a little bit intimidating. But we only go up to 7 sharps and we only go up to 7 flats. So by the time we also have a key that has no sharps or flats, then you're kind of looking really only at 16 permutations. It might sound like a lot, and it is, but you don't need to know them all at once. In fact, if you can get 3 or 4 key signatures, you've just blown a chunk of written music away, and that you now would be able to understand a good percentage. So you just do them one at a time, a couple at a time. But the point is that when you get those key signatures, now you have the opportunity to start constructing scales and chords and how to do various things to do with harmony and how to write melodies and how to improvise, because you kind of know the rules already. And if you know the rules of the key signatures, now you can start to learn what to do with them and also how to maybe break the rules as well, because we don't have to follow the rules, but it kind of helps to know what they are in the first place. So there's way more to it than that, but I know that there's a really common method that people use to construct chords, which is looking at them in terms of tones and semitones, the distance between each pair of notes in the chords. And I've got a big problem with that. And those are the 2 reasons why. 1, you end up with a lot of patterns of tones and semitones to remember that all look very, very similar. And 2, when you do land on the right note, you don't know what to call them. Whereas if you'd use the key signatures, you would. If you want some more information on this kind of stuff, then I've got an offer just for you that I'm going to make right now. I'm going to give you 30 days free on my Read the Dots method website. It's a huge library of videos where I explain everything in music theory from very, very basic to very, very complex in short, digestible videos. They're all between 5 and 15 minutes long. You can fit them into your day whenever you're free. There are practice questions. There are glossaries of key terms and like a thesaurus, like a dictionary rather, to explain what all of the terms mean. Lots of short videos with pictures and graphics and arrows pointing at things to try and help you understand things a bit more. And you watch them at your own speed whenever you want. And we've got a private Facebook group, Mark Deeks Music Read the Dots, for members to join, which is an extra bonus for you to be able to have conversations with other subscribers. And I'm in there too if you've got any questions. So if you want to understand how to construct chords a bit more and lots of other things to do with music theory, free for 30 days so you can try it out, then just comment below and let me know I'm in. You want to try out the 30-day free trial, and I'll send you all the information. Thanks for watching. More free tips coming soon on Mark Deeks Music and Read the Dots. Take care.